Hi and welcome back to our coverage of CEDIA Expo 2010. I'm joined now by John Dahl, who was Director of Education at THX. Some of you might remember John from the training that we did last year in June 2009 for Level 1 THX training. John, you're here to talk about setting up 3D in the home environment. So what are THX's recommendations for home setup?
Well, it turns out, ironically, that the recommendations for 3D setup are the same as they are for 2D, except they're even more important for 3D. The key concept here is that with 3D, you're actually looking at a 2D surface, but you're trying to trick your brain into seeing 3D. And this means that there are certain things that you really want to watch out for. One is you definitely want to have a screen that's big enough so that you can get involved in the image. Our recommendation is 36 to 50 degrees. That's the horizontal viewing angle rather than the actual size of the TV itself. And it would vary, of course, depending on whether you're looking at a scope projection screen or a 16:9 screen. But basically a bigger screen is going to give you a better experience. So long as it's not too big and all you see is all the artifacts on the image. You don't want to see those. Big enough to be involving, small enough to be sharp and clear. So that's one of the things. Another thing that you want to be very careful of is you want to sit within a relatively narrow viewing angle. We recommend about 30 degrees. And the reason for that is when you shoot 3D, you're actually shooting from directly in front of the scene. So if you're viewing the scene from way off angle, it has an unnatural appearance and it's not as relaxing to watch. So we recommend a 30-degree viewing angle, or say off to as much as 45 in practical terms. But you don't want to be way off to the side. The geometry of the picture doesn't work if you get too far to the side. Other considerations are, of course, if you're looking at an LCD set, not all LCD sets look that good off to the side, so watch out for that. And if you're doing a projected image on a silver screen, which a number of manufacturers are now introducing for passive 3D, silver screens also don't look too good if you get too far off to the side. So considerations for how far away from the center line of the image you can sit. The third thing we're emphasizing is the appearance of the room and the environment around the screen. You're trying to look at a 2D surface and believe it's 3D, so if there's anything that reminds you that you're looking at a 2D surface, that reduces your enjoyment of the 3D. For example, if there are a lot of reflections on the bezel around the picture, that shiny black bezel, well, those remind your brain that it's actually a 2D surface. Same thing for shiny reflections on the screen itself. So you want to avoid those if possible. Similarly, any lights or objects around the screen that will draw your attention to the fact that you're looking at a 2D screen. You want to avoid those. Another common thing that we used to love to do in 2D was to light the surface behind the screen. But of course, if you have a 2D surface lighted behind the screen and then the screen itself, again, that makes your brain struggle to let go of the fact that you're actually looking at 2D. So those are some of the highlights of our recommendations for getting the best possible 3D viewing experience.
Right, so basically all the recommendations that you were making for 2D still apply for 3D, in fact probably more so, more important now.
More so, yeah, because you know, if you don't have a picture that's easy for your brain to believe it's 3D, then it's going to be less pleasant to watch, more fatiguing, more stressful, and you really want to avoid that. So keep all the surfaces around your 3D clean and less distracting.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, John, for that information, and join us again later for more coverage from CEDIA Expo 2010.